August 7th, 2023, Henderson, Nevada. Most people in this part of the Las Vegas Valley don't lock their doors until late. The streets are wide, the houses are tidy, and the neighborhoods carry the kind of stillness that makes trouble feel like something that happened somewhere else. But just before noon on this particular Tuesday, a mother named Yoko Willett parks outside her son's house with a feeling she cannot shake. Jonathan hasn't picked up his phone in days. He hasn't replied to a single message. She walks through the front door and moves directly toward the staircase. The smell reaches her before she even crosses the threshold of the bedroom. It is sharp, synthetic, and aggressive. A combination of ammonia and chlorine so concentrated it stings the eyes. The kind of chemical presence you associate with industrial cleaning, not a private home. Something on the bed is covered, buried beneath layer after layer of blankets and quilts piled with unusual care. Yoko pulls them back, one by one. What she uncovers beneath those layers will remain with her for the rest of her life. Jonathan is there, but only partially. His body lies on the mattress, ending abruptly at the shoulders. Where his head should be, there is only a wound site wrapped in cloth soaked through with dried blood. And beneath the body, the bedding has been saturated with cleaning solution. Emergency dispatch receives the call at exactly 12 p.m. Officers who respond and walk into that room are immediately struck by something that doesn't fit. There is no chaos here, no overturned lamp, no broken furniture, no blood arcing across the walls the way it should when violence of this scale occurs. The room is almost unnervingly composed. Jonathan's wallet is gone, his ID, his truck keys, his phone. His skin bears chemical burns where bleach was applied directly to his body. The search that follows turns up nothing of use. Every closet, every trash bin, every corner of the yard. Before we continue, hit like and subscribe for more real-life crime stories. Turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Comment on your country below. I love seeing how far these stories reach. Your support keeps these cases alive. Now, let's get into it. Jonathan Willett is dead, and whoever was responsible walked out of that house carrying the tools of the crime and a piece of the victim. The Henderson Police Department formally designates the residence a major crime scene. Forensic units take over. What they find inside that sealed, fume-filled room tells a story of methodical destruction. The windows have been latched shut, trapping the chemical air inside. The cleaning agents, investigators determine, were not applied before death. They were poured over the bed and over Jonathan's body after he was already gone. The burns on his torso and arms, deep, discoloring, tissue-dissolving burns produced by prolonged chlorine exposure, confirm that the substances were applied in quantity and with intention. This was not someone trying to clean a mess. This was someone trying to erase a crime. The most significant and disturbing finding belongs to the medical examiner. Jonathan Willett's head is absent completely. An examination of the exposed cervical vertebrae and surrounding soft tissue reveals distinct tool marks that forensic laboratory analysis later attributes to two entirely separate saw types. Microscopic examination of the bone confirms this. Two different instruments were used, in sequence, to remove Jonathan's head from his body while he lay on that bed. The walls and ceiling of the bedroom show no blood spatter, none. For investigators, this absence is as loud as any physical evidence they could have collected. It means the scene was treated with chemicals almost immediately after the act concluded, before blood had any meaningful opportunity to travel. The cleanup had been comprehensive, systematic, and deliberate. Someone had moved through that room with purpose, touching every surface, neutralizing every trace. The saws were gone. The original weapon was gone. Jonathan's head was gone. What remained was a body, a bed, and the ghost of a scene that had been professionally dismantled. At this point in the investigation, detectives began asking a focused question. Who had unrestricted access to this home, sufficient time to carry out an operation of this scale, and the composure to execute it without leaving a fingerprint behind? In the summer of 2023, Devyn Jade Michaels presented herself to the world as a Las Vegas real estate professional. It was a clean, respectable identity, but the years before Nevada told a considerably different story. In adult entertainment circles, she had operated under two separate names, Nikki Fairchild and Tracy Nicole Tavares. Investigators weren't fixated on the industry itself. What interested them was the network it had produced around her, and specifically, one former husband named Robert Baker. Baker's name surfaces in Los Angeles court records in connection with the death of Fabio Clemente, a Hollywood stylist. Baker was convicted of conspiring with another individual to arrange Clemente's killing, the motive being life insurance money. When forensic consultants reviewed the circumstances surrounding Jonathan Willett's death, they flagged the structural similarity almost immediately. In both cases, a lethal act had been engineered to dissolve a financial or legal entanglement in a personal relationship. Violence as a practical solution. Devyn's departure from Los Angeles had looked like a fresh start. The prosecution, however, argued that the problem-solving methods she had absorbed in that world had not been left behind. They had simply relocated with her to Henderson. Years of proximity to people who treated serious crimes as logistical challenges, prosecutors contended, had made what happened in that bedroom not only possible but planned. Understanding the full arc of this case requires going back further to the years when the Willett household was still intact in its own complicated way. Jonathan Willett and Devyn Michaels had been together for more than a decade. They shared a home. They raised 2 daughters together, and yet they had never married. Jonathan earned the income. Devyn managed the household and cared for the children. It was, on the surface, a functional domestic arrangement. Then Devyn Willett entered the picture. He was Jonathan's son from a prior relationship, 19 years old, and he moved into his father's home to live with the family. For the 2 daughters of Jonathan and Devyn, Devyn became an older half-sibling. For Devyn Michaels, then 43 years old, he became something else. Court records and sworn testimony from the subsequent legal proceedings confirm what began developing during this period: a hidden romantic and physical relationship between Devyn Michaels and Devyn Willett, a young man 24 years, her junior, living under the same roof as his father, the man Devyn was still sharing a bed with. The relationship was concealed entirely. Jonathan went about his life as the head of the household, providing for his family, operating in complete ignorance of what was unfolding between his partner and his son. This continued not for weeks, but for years. The house held 3 adults, 2 of whom were conducting a secret relationship, while the third remained unaware. Every shared dinner, every ordinary evening, every morning in that home carried a deception running underneath it. The surface finally cracked in 2021 when Devyn Michaels and Devyn Willett formalized what had been hidden for so long. They married legally in Las Vegas. In a single legal transaction, the woman who had spent over a decade as Jonathan Willett's partner and the mother of his daughters became, by law, his daughter-in-law. Jonathan's response, according to Devyn's own later account, was absolute. He ended all. Contact immediately upon learning of the marriage. No calls, no visits, no communication of any kind. The family did not fracture gradually. It split in one clean break, with Jonathan on one side and Devyn and Devyn on the other. The custody dispute over the daughters was already in motion by this point, and the marriage added fresh hostility to an already toxic dynamic. When Devyn eventually stood trial, Devyn appeared as a prosecution witness and gave testimony that complicated everything. Under oath, he admitted that the marriage had been fully and continuously intimate. They shared a bed. They had an active physical relationship throughout. The earlier story he had told investigators, that the marriage was a legal formality for insurance coverage, that they lived in separate rooms and had no romantic involvement, was, he now confessed, entirely fabricated. He had constructed that version of events out of embarrassment when first approached by police. What had not changed was Jonathan's position. He had excised his son from his life completely after the wedding, but Devyn had not stopped seeking leverage over her former partner. The marriage had given her a new legal identity, but had done nothing to solve the custody problem. That problem, access to her daughters, remained unresolved and increasingly urgent. June 2022 brought the situation to a new and severe turning point. A child welfare worker conducting a routine visit with one of the daughters shared by Jonathan and Devyn observed bruises on the girl's legs. A formal report was filed, charges of child mistreatment followed, and the court found Devyn Michaels guilty. Her sentence was 1 year of probation, but the probation was not the most consequential outcome of the proceeding. The civil custody ruling that accompanied it was. Jonathan Willett was awarded sole legal guardianship of both daughters, with full authority over where they lived and the circumstances under which their mother could have access to them. Devyn Michaels was prohibited from being alone with her own children. Every contact required either Jonathan's presence or that of a social services official. She was already legally married to his son. She was now legally barred from unsupervised access to her daughters. And the only human being with the power to change any of that was Jonathan Willett. Any misstep on her part, any probation violation, any unauthorized contact with the girls could send her to jail. She had no room to maneuver. Jonathan held every card. The weeks that preceded August 7th, 2023, now become essential to understanding what followed. With her custodial rights stripped and her probation keeping her pinned in place, Devyn began reaching out to Jonathan directly. The message she carried into those conversations was carefully constructed. She told him she wanted to come back. She said she was prepared to walk away from her marriage to Devyn, to end it, and to return to the life they had shared, to him and to the girls. Jonathan, for reasons investigators could only reconstruct after the fact, chose to believe her. The evidence of that belief was scattered throughout his house on the day his mother arrived. Dozens of cardboard boxes packed and stacked across the living room and into the hallway, full of clothing, household belongings, and children's toys. Jonathan Willett had been preparing to move. He had invited Devyn into his home to work through the logistics of a reunion he genuinely believed was coming. Prosecutors argued at trial that every word of that reconciliation had been engineered. Jonathan was sorting through his belongings and envisioning a future, while Devyn was calculating something else entirely. With Jonathan as the sole legal guardian, his permanent disappearance represented the fastest, most complete solution to every legal obstacle she faced. The boxes were not evidence of a new beginning. They were evidence of how completely the victim had been manipulated in the final weeks of his life. On August 15th, 2023, 8 days after Yoko Willett made her discovery, Las Vegas police brought Devyn Michaels in for formal questioning. She agreed voluntarily to submit to a polygraph examination. Nevada law does not allow lie detector results to be used as courtroom evidence, but the test's outcome mattered for what happened next. She did not pass, and immediately after the session concluded, her story of the night in question changed. The new version she offered placed both her and Jonathan in the upstairs bedroom together. She said she had been giving him a massage when he made a sexual proposition that she found offensive and unwanted. When she rejected him, she claimed, he became aggressive. She said she grabbed a wooden stick from somewhere nearby and struck him with it multiple times, describing the act as self-defense. She watched him lose consciousness and stop moving. She maintained she had never wanted him to die. Investigators listened carefully. Then they walked her through the evidence. No version of being struck with a wooden stick ends with the complete surgical removal of a human head. No spontaneous act of self-defense results in a bedroom chemically scrubbed of all biological material. When detectives asked her directly what she had done after Jonathan stopped responding, she refused to answer. She said the shock of the moment had made it impossible for her to recall. The search warrants executed at Devyn's property told a different story with total clarity. Among the items recovered from her vehicle and her personal handbag were Jonathan Willett's wallet, his driver's license, his social security card, and a set of keys to his truck. These were items he carried on his person every single day. They had no innocent explanation for being in her possession. They had been taken from a death scene and carried across the city. The single most damning piece of physical evidence was discovered, not in her car or her bag, but inside the home she shared with Devyn. Jonathan's mobile phone, its case and screen, both visibly stained with dried blood, was found there by one of the daughters. A child searching through her mother's house had found her father's bloodied phone. Devyn Michaels offered no coherent explanation for why it was there or how it had come to be in her possession. When the trial convened, the testimony of Devyn Willett became one of its most turbulent elements. He took the stand and formally retracted every statement he had given during the investigation and before the grand jury, acknowledging openly that he had deliberately deceived law enforcement throughout the entire process. His original claim that the marriage was an insurance arrangement, that they lived separately, that there was no physical relationship, was a complete fabrication. He had invented it, he said, because he felt humiliated admitting the truth to the police. Devyn's defense team moved aggressively on this admission. A witness who had lied comprehensively to investigators and under oath before the grand jury could not be trusted on the stand. Beyond his credibility problem, her attorneys positioned Devyn as a plausible alternative suspect. Court records showed that Jonathan had been moving toward evicting Devyn from the Henderson home to create space for his daughters and for a possible reconciliation with Devyn. That eviction would have destabilized Devyn both financially and personally. The defense asked the jury to consider whether a son facing that threat might have had his own reasons to act. Prosecutors conceded the obvious. Devyn was a flawed witness whose prior dishonesty created real problems. But forensic data and digital records produced no evidence placing him in that house on the night of the crime. The defense had a theory with a motive. The prosecution had evidence with a timeline. That timeline, reconstructed from objective data, runs as follows. At 1 a.m. on August 7th, Devyn Michaels was still inside Jonathan's home. During this period, she was on the phone with Yoko Willett, Jonathan's mother, who was on the other side of the city. That call accomplished something specific. It confirmed for Devyn that Yoko had no plans to arrive at the house until the following morning. Devyn had approximately 1 hour before neighborhood surveillance systems would record her vehicle departing the area. She used that hour. She struck Jonathan in the head, delivering fatal injuries. She then retrieved 2 saws and removed his head from his body while he lay on the bed. She poured ammonia and bleach across the mattress, the bedding, and Jonathan's remains, producing the chemical burns that would later be documented by the medical examiner. She collected his wallet, his identification documents, his keys, and his phone. Then she took a plastic laundry basket from the bathroom, placed Jonathan's head inside it, and walked out of the house at 2:04 a.m. Somewhere on the drive between Henderson and Las Vegas, she stopped at a public trash container and left the basket behind. She had already established the timing. A garbage truck completed its early morning collection route along that stretch within hours. The compactor did the rest. When Yoko Willett climbed those stairs at noon and pulled back the blankets, everything that could have identified the perpetrator or confirmed the full extent of what had happened was already gone. In November 2025, after deliberating for just 2 hours, a Nevada jury delivered its verdict. Devyn Jade Michaels was convicted of first-degree murder. The result might have been avoided entirely. Before the trial began, prosecutors had extended a plea offer that would have reduced the charge to second-degree murder in exchange for the possibility of parole eligibility after 15 years. Devyn declined it. She told the court she was innocent completely and without qualification. During the proceedings, the jury heard an audio recording made during one of her police interviews. In the background of the tape, faintly but unmistakably, the mechanical grinding of a garbage truck can be heard passing outside the interrogation room window. It was at this moment, while describing how she had carried Jonathan Willett's head in a laundry basket and deposited it into a public trash container, that Devyn Michaels said the words, "Just like that, bye-bye." Prosecutors pointed to those 4 words as the most precise encapsulation of everything they had argued throughout the trial. This was not impulsive violence followed by panic. This was a deliberate act carried out by someone who felt not grief, not regret, not horror at what she had done, but something closer to satisfaction at how efficiently it had been handled. In January 2026, the sentence was formally imposed. Devyn Jade Michaels received 51 years in a Nevada state prison, with the possibility that the term could be extended to life. She did not testify at any point during her own trial. Jonathan Willett's head was never recovered. His daughters grew up having lost their father to murder and their mother to a prison sentence she will likely never fully complete. Devyn Michaels is currently incarcerated and has begun serving that time. The house in Henderson is quiet now. The boxes Jonathan packed are long gone, and the future he believed he was preparing for never came. Thank you for being here and for giving your time and attention to this channel. In a world full of endless content, the fact that you chose to watch and stay connected truly means more than I can express. Your support is not just appreciated, it's valued deeply. Show your support by hitting the like button if you enjoyed the content and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you're always updated whenever a new video goes live. Every single interaction, whether it's a like, a comment, or a share, helps this channel grow and reach more people around the world. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay safe, stay aware, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.